RJ Barrett and the New York Knicks have come to a long-term 4-year, $120 million contract extension, practically closing the doors on the Donovan Mitchell saga at last, I hope, and officially handing the keys to RJ. It's no secret that RJ can hoop, but before we talk about that, let's discuss why the Knicks shouldn't have traded for Donovan Mitchell. There should be a tweet popping up on the screen right now, and just looking at this tweet, it makes me even more thankful that they didn't pull the trigger trading for Mitchell. If they quote-unquote finessed a way to keep RJ while also acquiring Donovan Mitchell, it would have probably been one of the most inefficient and another small, not so good at defending backcourts. You can see it two ways, but the two ways both have very different situations. Some of RJ's early inefficiency comes from being the lone ball handler in one of the biggest markets in basketball. You know, he's out there playing Thibs minutes trying to just figure it all out, and he has been, rightfully so. Maybe he hasn't led them to much success, but you can see RJ developing more and more every year, growing into the player that he clearly can be. The position Donovan was in, and I say was because Rudy's no longer there and the Jazz saga could be over for Donovan, but again, we won't know until he's traded or stays put. But the position that Donovan was in was he was the clear-cut first option, but he couldn't create through passing or create as efficiently through shooting like other winning guards. I have no idea where the Jazz and Donovan stand now because I know there's a few teams that are capable of throwing packages together. Probably the Heat are the favorites, but we've seen with someone like KD or Ben Simmons that even if you and the team you're with wants to move on, you can't just force yourself out of a contract if you still have remaining years on it. If Donovan stays with the Jazz this upcoming season, it's not the end of the world. There's been plenty of all-star, even superstar shooting guards that have been able to play on bad teams loyally while the front office gets their P's and Q's in order and surrounds you with competitive winning talent. What's important, though, to note about this entire Jazz saga, the Jazz originally said they wouldn't be interested in dealing him, and that if offers come in, they would just counter them with an even bigger one. But then you see Rudy Gobert gets traded, and as of 4 days ago, the Jazz announced that they want Donovan gone before training camp even starts. It doesn't seem like Spite is being uncooperative during this whole process either, which I have to just tip my hat to really quickly. I've still seen him working out in Jazz gear this offseason, and he hasn't badmouthed the organization or anything like that. I just don't see a conference, like an Eastern Conference team like the Knicks or Heat trying to pull the trigger without the assistance of someone like the Lakers, maybe adding 2 first-round picks and Russell Westbrook as a salary dump to kind of cushion the blow, because if you're New York, you do not want to be giving up 6 first-round picks. It's just not smart for your future. And honestly, Russell Westbrook is becoming more and more non-tradable to me. It seems like every day the Lakers and LeBron and specifically are more and more adamant about seeing him play at least a few games in the purple and gold. As for the Knicks, yes, it's possible that they still could trade for Mitchell, but in my opinion, it's not so smart. The offer we looked at earlier, like I said, was including up to 6 first-round picks, Obi Toppin and Evan Fournier. The Jazz wanted nothing to do with it, and neither should the Knicks, honestly. The Jazz probably sent them back some counteroffer that was laughable and that the media hasn't even heard yet. You know, giving up your entire future and 6 first-round picks would be okay if this move made them instant contenders, but it doesn't. Donovan, yes, is one hell of a playoff performer. I mean, we all remember him and Murray going absolutely nuts, battling each other, dropping 30 and 40 every other night in that Nuggets-Jazz series, but there's so many issues in the fine print of this trade. For starters, if you make this trade, you now have Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Donovan Mitchell all trying to share one basketball. Jalen is just getting his taste of money, limelight, and primarily ball handling duties. And you're going to come and bring Donovan in onto this ship and tell me that it won't sink? I really have a hard time believing that. Not to mention, they have Derrick Rose and Emmanuel Quickley, who have both been tuning up and playing really well in the Knicks system. I don't know if they're going to move on from Thibs or not, because you saw in the first year that Thibs was there and they made the playoffs and they went out sad against the Hawks. The regular season, they were all about defense, and defense and heart, and it seems like they maybe don't have that anymore. And I don't know if it's Thibs not pushing hard enough, or maybe he's just trying to switch it up, because let's be honest, his coaching can get a little dated, but love him or hate him, he knows how to make people play defense and gritty as well. The match just doesn't seem right to me. Unless Donovan is transferring to a point guard, and even then, why would they risk getting in the tampering trouble that they got in to sign Brunson just so they can bring someone in who's the same build as him, just a little older and more developed? Another thing I'd like to touch on is if it came to the Knicks re-signing RJ Barrett versus trading for Donovan Mitchell, I'm so happy that they made this choice because it's the right one. I think RJ's ceiling is a lot higher than Donovan's. He's a remarkable athlete. He's explosive. He has a smooth left-handed jump shot. And most importantly, I think he's way, way more coachable than Donovan Mitchell. Now, I did just compliment Donovan Mitchell's character earlier. However, the ability RJ possesses from getting coached at Duke to now getting coached here in New York City by 2 different coaches in his short NBA career, I just cannot say enough good things. I've just heard so many great things from coaches and his godfather Steve Nash, and it's all testaments to how hard he works and how hard he plays and his work ethic. Not to mention, this contract was an absolute steal in my eyes, and not just for the Knicks. Here's a fun fact for you. No Knicks rookie has picked up a second contract from the organization since Charlie Wood in 1999. Them re-signing RJ Barrett is huge. That's been over 23 years. And $120 million for 4 years is not bad at all, especially when you consider these insane contracts that Ja, Zion, and Tatum like that are getting. It's usually upwards of $185 to $220 million. And granted, yes, there's another year, and this is going to be the full max rookie contract. And obviously, RJ Barrett only signed 4 years, but still, Kenny or KOT4Q said something in one of his old rebuild videos. I'm pretty sure it was from like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's something along the lines of, if you don't sign them, someone else will. I think that sentiment has proven to be true more times than I can even blink in a day. The value of a role player has skyrocketed like crazy even. After all, that's where this conversation stems from. You see a guy like Evan Fournier getting paid $18 million, almost $20 million a year, and you say, damn, is he even worth signing that? But as you're proposing that question to yourself, 29 other NBA teams are on the line trying to see if they can make it work. Getting better is not cheap. It's just the cost of doing business. In this case, though, I really am happy the Knicks pulled the trigger on this deal. RJ's game is so fun to watch, and he really plays it at his own pace. The only 2 slights I have with his game are his lack of facilitating. 3 assists for any guard is not impressive at all. And his inefficiency. But that's something understandable. Like I said, a lot of times with these young guards, they struggle from switching to college to the league and kind of being in charge of an organization when you get drafted so high in the lottery. You definitely need to see his efficiency at the rim shoot up, though. There's a stat actually that highlights just that. 69 players have attempted 800 layups and dunks since entering the league in 1920, and RJ Barrett unfortunately ranks last on that list in field goal percentage at 49.9%. He's going to have to step that number up and go back to shooting around 40% on threes a game. If he can clean up the knocks on his game, I really could see RJ taking that all-star leap this year. Last year, I thought he would be an all-star, but this year, I'd like to see him around 24 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and at least with some better shooting splits everywhere, and that does include the free throw line. I'd like to see that 71% go up to at least 80 or 78. The root of every great shooter is from the charity stripe. And as for the Knicks, overall, I think minus the tampering, they've had a pretty good offseason. I do not see them being higher than the 5 or the 6 seed, if that. But I am really happy they're taking their time with this rebuild as opposed to jumping headfirst in and selling their future for a 6'3" shooting guard who can't make it past the second round. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below telling me what you guys expect from the Knicks and if you think they should pull the trigger on a Donovan Mitchell deal. Subscribe if you're new and like basketball content. I will be trying to upload at least 3 videos a week, sometimes even more. Thank you guys so much for the support. Peace.